for you, and what do you think is the big thing you've improved since the end of last season?
Spring practice has been a lot of fun. Usually we didn't have it in high school, so for me it's been really fun being able to have a chance to pretty much play football all year round. The tempo of practice has been great. So competitive. I feel like going into every practice, I always try to improve on just even the slightest things, either my technique, my fitting on tackling, I guess just my steps and everything such as that at my position. So.
How is the up-tempo offense that coaches Moorhead's installing played a factor in your defensive schemes in practice?
We definitely had to get the calls in faster, but the tempo has been great. They're starting to get more and more used to it every day. Everybody in general is getting used to it because you got to imagine it's a really high-paced offense. We're getting plays out really fast, so it also helps our communication as a defense. Having to communicate really fast to quick formations because they're getting the plays out fast. So.
John, why do you think you were able to play so quickly as a true freshman? I think you started in your first game, but I think something was wrong with Grant, and you had a kind of a key role throughout the season. Why were you so prepped, you think, to make a contribution right away here?
I think that's a tribute to the people that I'm around. All people I've been surrounded by through high school, through college, the great coaches, the great people. The older guys on the team, they were all very welcoming. They were able to answer all my questions. I ask a lot of questions to be able to know everything. So I think just my preparation and then the people around me, the people in the building, were able to allow me to be able to play a role like that.
How much do you think you've developed over this past year? How much have you learned and kind of gotten better?
I think I've gotten a lot better because in high school the game's a lot more simple. The reads of quarterbacks, they usually have one read, and if it doesn't go to that read, they're running. Whereas now, you're playing against, great quarterbacks. We played against Hackenberg every day in practice, so you got to imagine, he's squeezing the ball in such tight windows. Your technique has to be on point or you're going to give up a pass. So.
Obviously, you're going against two QBs who could be the starter this season, and McSorley and Tommy Stevens. What has it been like going against them? And does maybe one do something that you have to adjust to a little bit more? Is one thing different about one thing separate the two QBs in your eyes?
They both play a very similar game. I think the competition right now is great. It's making everybody else around them better. It's making everybody else step up their game as well because everybody realizes that competition. They're each playing better each and every day. So. I'm not too sure. They're both playing great, I think. They're both handling the offense really well. You got to imagine it's a new offense, so everybody in general is going through a transition right now.
Well, Hackenberg could fit the ball into a tight window. What can
I think they can both do it. I think we got a lot of confidence in both of them, so I believe they're both quarterbacks.
What's the competition been like at corner, John?
Competition at corner, we're real deep at corner, a lot of guys, but as a whole, we've always felt that competition in our corner room. I feel like we've been deep. Even last season, we had a lot of guys who could have played last year and stepped up. But we're so competitive, but at the same time, we're to help each other out with each parts of our game to even bring up the competition even more in our room. Because if a guy's not great in one area, we got another guy who's really good in that area that's able to help him. So everybody's raising their level of competitiveness because everybody's trying to reach their potential, and we're all helping each other do it at the same time.
What was it like for you when Shoof decided to leave? Because obviously you had developed a tight relationship. We heard all about all the film that you had watched with him. How tough was that for you?
It was definitely a transition, but we had a lot of confidence in Coach Pry. I believe Coach Pry was also the co-defensive coordinator. He's been on the staff. We all have a really good relationship with Coach Pry. He was always on the field with us. We're really excited. When Coach Pry took over, we were very excited because he's been with us. He knows what every player can do. He's just great to play for, honestly.
John, what have you seen from Juwan Johnson and Irvin Charles? Everyone kind of knows what Chris Godwin can do and Deshaun can do. They redshirted last year. What have you seen from them, and what is it like kind of going against them in practice?
It's very competitive. They're big guys. They're fast. They can catch the deep ball. They can catch the short ball. They can do a lot. They were also still picking up the system last year, but now they're picking up the system really fast this year. Even when they were redshirts last year, they were still very much on par with everybody. Our receiver core is also another position that's deep, and everybody's does things, really, really good. It's competitive. So I felt like they're going to be able to play a great role. So they're both really great players, I think.
How have you improved physically since you've gotten here? In terms of, have you added weight? Have you gotten faster? I know they taught you and everything.
I've added weight. I've gotten faster. I think our strength program does a great job. Whenever I have any certain problem, anything I want to fix, anything I want to work on, they're able to connect it to the field and be able to help me develop, certain things that I want in my game. So the development has been great. You got to think it's also very convenient when your weight room is 5 minutes from your dorm.
Right.
So It's great, you know. Plus, they do a lot of extra stuff. You know, if I ask them about, I want to get more flexible in this area, they're like, boom, we got something for you. You know, so it's great having a strength staff like this.
How much more do you weigh now than when you got here, and can you quantify some of your speed increases?
I would say maybe gain 5 pounds. Maybe I would say maybe a 10th off my 40 or so. Not too sure, honestly.
Sure.
John, you came in with Garrett Taylor. He was another defensive back in your class that was really kind of highly regarded. What have you seen from him? I think he had a knee injury in high school. How is he coming around, and what have you seen from him in practice?
I think he's gotten over that the knee injury that he had in high school. He's also picking up the defense he's also picking up the defense, I think. But I think he's doing really well. I thought he was doing very well even during the season last year. So he's doing great.
And what about Nick Scott coming over there? How has that been for him?
Nick Scott's making a transition. It's not easy at all transitioning from, especially running back to corner. You know, usually you see the transition from receiver to corner. So, you know, he's very coachable. He works very, very hard. So he's picking up things a lot faster than usually somebody would, you know, just because of his personality, you know, the fact that he's open to everybody coaching him. And he's been great about the transition, I think.
Can you talk about his personality? I mean, I'm sure he makes things light over there a little bit too.
Yeah, a lot of jokes, you know, just like a lot of us in our room, you know. His work ethic, though, I think is great. You know, it's contagious. You know, we competed a lot and won at workouts, and we were always going against each other. I think that work ethic and his competitiveness is what is going to help him make this transition to the corner.
John, how much are things different with Coach Pryor, the coordinator, with Coach Banks on your staff?
I just love the energy that both of them are bringing to practice. You know, Coach Banks, you know, they're both very guys that are going to be, you know, very personable. They're going to be talking to you. They're going to be getting you excited. You know, when they make a mistake, you know, they're boosting you up. You can make that play. You know, just the confidence that they both have in all of us and all of our defense, I just think is amazing.
John, have you found yourself yet this spring in the open field one-on-one with Saquon? And if so, what can you learn about the art of tackling as a whole, being tasked with bringing down a guy like him?
I don't think we've been in open field very much. I think we're about to have our first scrimmage coming up, so
okay.
I'll probably have to let you know after that.
Okay.
What have you seen from the other running backs? Saquon makes a buzz, but the Mark Allens and people like that, who still stood out in your mind?
I think they both, Marcus Allen and Andre have both done really good things. You know, they both busted a couple of runs. You know, they broken tackles. You know, I think that they're both doing really well this spring.
From the defensive side of the ball, how have you guys seen the offensive line kind of develop with this new zone running scheme and everything like that? How do you guys see that?
I think the offensive line is just, as a whole, they're growing. They're getting older, they're getting bigger, they're getting a lot stronger. So I think that they've just improved, you know, naturally. And I'm more of a corner. I can't really say too much about, you know, how much they're doing the defense and them scheme-wise and everything like that.